Today, we're going to be checking out the Gungnir 7-string guitar from Heathen Guitar Works. So I've sort of had Heathen on the channel before, but not really. I had them about basically a year ago exactly, back under the name Deviant. And that was more of like a custom thing that they were doing, less of a standard line. And they were wanting to really kind of move away from that and consolidate under Heathen to finally kind of have their brand vision and have both the pickups that they make and the guitars they make under one name and roof. So they went through a really big rebrand this year. I know it put them through a lot, and they kind of relaunched at NAMM this year. I got to try a couple at NAMM. They played absolutely fantastic. He definitely focused on a bunch of little things for playability and feel, and it really shows. These guitars already played absolutely fantastic, but now they are some of the best playing and feeling guitars I've ever had the pleasure of touching. One of them in particular was this 7-string guitar, is this one for Kim, kind of like a Siggy kind of custom one for him. Single pickup 7-string. It looked awesome. It had this really cool pale moon ebony thing going on, but it's not actually ebony. It's still just going to be rich light like the other guitars. And I wasn't the only one that liked the guitars. I'm pretty sure Dino from Fear Factory ended up picking one up, which congrats on that. You have wonderful taste in guitars. That guitar ruled. And while there and trying them out and just grinning ear to ear, really digging the guitars, they asked me if I would like to check out one of their 7-strings. And of course I said yeah. So that leaves me here to this guitar, the Gungnir. Now I'm not sure if I can get all of this in frame. Let's see here. Yeah, hard to get it all in frame here, but it is an absolutely sick guitar. A little funny with the scale length. This is actually a 25.5-inch scale length, which typically I prefer 26.5 for 7, but this just feels great and plays great, and so it didn't bother me one bit. Alder body. I do like Alder a lot of times because it's weighty enough to not feel like a toy and to well balance the instrument so you don't have like head dive, neck dive, especially on something like a 7-string. but it's not so heavy that it's like a bowling ball, like something like an unchambered mahogany on a Les Paul or something like that. I think it's a really great middle ground. This is a bolt-on construction, as you can see here. The neck is going to be a single piece of maple, and then it actually has running down it on the inside, it's going to have a couple of carbon fiber reinforcement rods to make sure that this thing is super stable and rock solid, not going to move. Sticking with the neck, of course, like I mentioned before, they like Richlite boards, and this is something I mentioned on the Deviant video about a year ago, but Richlite is actually my favorite guitar fretboard material. I hear you. I love ebony as well. Ebony is gorgeous. It's super glassy and everything like that, but Richlite I feel is superior, not just because it's sustainable and you don't have to go out and forest endangered trees for it, but it is always going to be perfect. It is always going to be the most glassy, smooth, wonderful fretboard material, more smooth than any perfect smooth ebony could be. And it's perfectly dark and rich looking. It not being a wood as well means there's going to be very little maintenance, and you're not going to have to worry about it cracking, which is a big deal with ebony and harder woods. If it gets too dry and you don't oil it properly, or if you over oil it, or it becomes too moist or humid in the atmosphere, or something like that, and it starts to swell and you start to get fret sprout and all those kinds of things, that will never happen with a Richlite board. And so for those reasons, it looks perfect, it feels perfect, and it stays perfect. That is why that is my favorite fretboard material. And so it's so awesome that it is on these guitars. Now, just like with the previous guitar, he also has stainless steel frets on this, and his fretwork is immaculate. Not a high one on the bunch. No rough or sharp feeling frets whatsoever. They are all perfectly rounded. He really has an attention to detail for those frets that I really do appreciate. And as somebody that used to work in the guitar industry, work for a guitar company and do a lot of frets, this fretwork is fantastic. I do also really like these inlays. These do glow in the dark, so on a dark stage you could absolutely see these if you need to. And I like that they're basically out of the way, so it looks like you have a nice clean empty fretboard, but then you have this big chunk at the end, so you can still have this very clear indicator of where you are at all times, whether you're playing at home or on stage. And then it is cool that they just glow. See, we have a Graphtec nut here. We do have hip shot open gear tuners, which are probably my favorite tuners. I just really like the hip shot stuff, both their bridges and their tuners. And Gungnir, by the way, means Spear of Odin, which this headstock really lends it to that. This thing looks like a weapon. Now, moving back on down to the body, there are some definite great things on here that I really like about his guitar design and why these feel so good. One of them is going to be this contour here and kind of the shape of the guitar, where you can see that your armrest, it's kind of got this, not uniform. It's not perfectly rounded here. It's not the same shape as it goes down. It's kind of amorphous. That fits your arm and body so well when you're sitting and playing with this thing, whether it's in just regular playing position or classical position. This thing stays entirely out of your way. My arm wasn't hitting stuff, moving against anything, rubbing against anything, feeling uncomfortable in any way. And it's something you don't notice at first because you're so comfortable and it stays out of your way. You shouldn't notice the guitar getting in your way. But after a while, I was like, wow, this thing is so crazy comfortable to play. Another cool little feature here, and it's on the very back. This is where the cable goes. It's in this little notch here, this little crevice, and you can see it has a bit of an angle, so the cable will come out and kind of jut out to the back. That way, when you're sitting in classical position, you can still have it plugged in with no problems. And when you're playing and standing, it can just go up and out behind your strap, and again, no issues. Just another really well thought out little feature that I don't think a ton of people would have thought about on a guitar, but is definitely something that I think is nice to have, especially for guys that want to sit and play guitar correctly or whatever. Now, this does have a Evertune bridge on it right there, as you can see. I had a guitar years ago with Evertune on it. They're cool. They do exactly what they say on the box. They keep your guitar in tune basically no matter what. It's actually really cool and wild, like how good they stay in tune. You can pick up the strings and pick the whole guitar by the strings and shake it around. It'll still be in tune. And a lot of people think that you can't have the guitar do bends properly, which isn't true. You just basically got to tune all the way up until the note's about to go out of pitch, and then you stop, and then whenever you do a bend, it will still do the bendy. And they're great bridges. They feel awesome. a little bit of setup, but they're fantastic bridges, especially for studio work, to keep everything super tight and consistent in between takes. Now, lastly, and certainly not least, we're going to talk about these pickups here. The pickups are the Gungnir set. I think I'm saying that right. You know, like the Jotunheim, like Frost Giant kind of thing, Gungnir. I think I'm saying it right, but who knows? I mean, with all the Nordic stuff, I don't know. I don't speak Nordic-ese. I don't know. I think I'm saying it close enough, though. These are really interesting, really well thought out, just like the rest of the guitar. As a matter of fact, these might be some of the most balanced pickups to each other, like in a set, that I've ever played. Or at least they're in the top three. I just can't think of anything else that has this kind of balance to it. And what I mean by that is the bridge pickup is very much what you would want out of a 7-string pickup. It is tight, not thin. It has a lot of mid-range for that cut and bite, especially what you're going to need for lower tuned guitars. A lot of clarity to it. As a matter of fact, when it goes through a clean channel, it almost has like a cocked wah kind of thing, where you might think that's not what you'd want on a clean, but for a high gain distorted sound, that's exactly right. And then the neck pickup is kind of not really the opposite, because it's not like fat or loose or anything like that, but it's definitely more scooped. It definitely lends itself to filling in the frequencies that this one leaves out by being more mid-range focused. And so they pair together super well, like in the middle position. They sound really good for cleans and even leads. Like they just slot together. You don't even notice like a huge tonal shift. It just kind of fills out a little bit more. And then when you go to the neck pickup, again, it's not a huge tonal shift. It's just not nasal anymore. It's just fuller, kind of smoother, decent for cleans. I think it's really, really good for like cleaning up lead lines. It's still got lots of top end and clarity. A lot of times neck pickups have the problem of getting really dark and too woolly on the low end, and it's like a big tone shift. That doesn't happen at all. You'll definitely hear when I mess around with that. This stays super consistent sound wise. It's just all of a sudden it gets a little cleaner sounding because you don't have the higher gain and pushing all the mids, and then you switch back and then it gets back to the aggression, which I think is pretty much ideal for what you would want in a set of pickups, especially in an extended range guitar. Just really well thought out. So absolutely enough of me gushing over the thing and talking about how good it is and how well it plays and all of that. Let's just kind of mess around with it. Just like for the in-mix, I'm going to have this plugged into my Ingle Savage Mark II 120 watt. For the distorted tones, it's all going to be on the lead channel, and then the clean tones are all going to be on the clean channel. And for those clean tones, you're going to hear a Strymon Blue Sky reverb, just because clean tones dry are just super boring. And we'll play around with all the different pickup positions. Let's check it out. I already was a fan of his guitars when I tried Deviant a little over a year ago, and I am so much more of a fan now with Heathen. I think it is a crime that he is not more well known. These guitars play absolutely stellar. The pickups, all the different pickups I've gotten to try from him so far, all sound great and are really thought out, like really well thought out for what he wants to do and what he wants the player to be able to do with them. Just every inch of this guitar is so well thought out and plays super well. Something I didn't mention, the neck contour is like a thin C, but it's not super flat. So it's not going to feel like a board or like, you know, kind of uncomfortable in the back. And it's not so thick to contour your hand that it's like a baseball bat or anything like that. It's still fairly thin, but it's rounded enough that it really does feel good on the hand, and you just don't notice it while playing, which again is kind of what you want. You don't want to notice the guitar getting in your way. Seriously, these things are fantastic. They're also very affordable. I believe the Evertune models start at $2,100, and then the hip shot models around $1,900, which is a steal of a deal. You're going to be paying those prices and sometimes more for import models from certain companies, which is wild to me. And these are made in America by one guy that just absolutely is nailing what he's doing. So I'm going to have a link down below so you can check out these guitars and pickups for yourself. Would love to know your opinions if you have any experience with Heathen or Deviant at this point. But thanks for watching. Stay metal.